From netball as a junior to Australian representation in the marathon at the Glasgow Commonwealth Games. Enjoy today's episode with Melanie Panayiotou as we jump in to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show. You're in for a real treat with today's guest. On the line, I have Mel Panayiotou, Australian Marathon Representative at the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Mel went on to run an incredible PB in that race and finish in the top 10 in 8th position. In 2015, Mel was the third fastest Australian female marathoner, and I have a suspicion that we have just seen some of the beginnings of what will be this remarkable athlete's success to come. So, Mel, welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Thank you very much.
And I like to throw a curly one straight out of the gate. So, Mel, what's the most scary thing you've ever done in your life?
Well, I think I had a dive with Nile crocodiles in South Africa. That was pretty scary. But that was before my job at Australia Zoo, where I ended up working with massive Australian saltwater crocodiles. So I think I've overcome that fear now.
So the Nile crocodiles, are they bigger or smaller than the crocodiles at Australia Zoo?
They can be almost as big, but, the ones at Australia Zoo are not the biggest, but the ones that you can get in the wild in Australia are much, much bigger than the African ones. Yeah, pretty scary.
What inspired you to get amongst these Nile crocodiles? What were you doing in South Africa? Was that a running event?
No, this is before I even started running. I was a uni student. Went over there for work experience because I always knew I wanted to work with wildlife. And the wildlife park that I was working for said, well, why don't you have a go at this? And I think OH&S in Africa is a little bit slack compared to what we have here. So I was in this cage where, your limbs can go out the sides if you let them, and there's crocodiles right next to you. So pretty scary.
What was the scariest thing you saw at the zoo? I imagine you would have seen some hard-in-your-mouth moments, surely.
Yeah, I think it probably goes back to the crocodilian species. Sometimes you watch those really experienced crocodile handlers getting so up and close with them and doing the demonstrations, and you just when you're close enough to see to appreciate the size of those animals and their teeth and their jaw pressure and all those kinds of things, you really, your heart kind of stops for a moment when you think how scary that is for those guys to be in there. But I don't think I'd ever be brave enough to go through that training.
So, Mel, over on the running side of things, what's been your single greatest running accomplishment to date?
Well, I have to say Commonwealth Games in Glasgow 2014 was a huge achievement to not only be selected for the team, but to get to that start line completely fit, injury-free, and then to have a fantastic run. I think it was 3.5 minute PB, and come in at 8th place. Like, the whole thing was just perfect and absolutely awesome, and one of my best memories, I think.
Was it a dream at that stage come true?
Yeah, and when I look back, a lot of that year really was a whirlwind. It was quite unexpected. And I was so busy with my life and with training and trying to keep up with all the new things in my life and, media attention and whatever.
Yes.
I think, there's part of it where I didn't stop and just take it all in enough. But it was so exciting that I enjoyed the whole lot. And I remember being in that little warm-up area before the start of the marathon at the Com Games, and I was just so excited. I wasn't really nervous at all. I was just so happy to be there.
Yeah, wow. And so is this something that you grew up aspiring to, like representing Australia in running, or how did you get started in the sport? I'd like to build a bridge between your start and your career highlight to date. How did you first get started?
Yeah, it's definitely not the usual story. My main sport growing up was netball.
Yep.
And when I was young, I was quite good and made state teams, and I thought I could represent Australia in netball, but didn't realise that I wasn't going to grow very much. So sort of got to mid-teens and all the other girls were towering over me, so I wasn't really doing very well anymore. So I only really played more for enjoyment after that. And when I was 18, I had a shoulder injury in netball and had to get a full reco. So I had to sort of change what I did, no more contact sports and that sort of thing. Yep. And it wasn't really till I got to uni and I started running before uni and started just really enjoying it and going further and further and not even really knowing that I was any good. Yeah. And it just sort of became a thing that I did most days. And then when I moved up to the Sunshine Coast, as you know, being a Queenslander, it's just, the weather's just fantastic for training. And it really motivates you to get up every morning, you get out there, and there are tons of people running every morning. Yeah. And that really got me motivated to step it up a little bit and enter a full marathon. I thought I was doing a fair bit of running, but it was only about 80 Ks a week. Yep. And I was just running. I didn't know anything about interval work or, recovery, jogging or anything like that. It was all one pace. And somehow, the Melbourne Marathon was 2013. That was where I decided to have a go. I thought that I could just go under 250, just given what I was doing in my Sunday long runs. Yep. And I approached it just like it was a Sunday long run and ended up coming in at 241. Wow. And that was third place, and I was totally excited about the third place, but I had no idea what the time meant. So the race organisers at the finish line, they were sort of trying to tell me, do you know what you've done here? You've done a Commonwealth Games qualifying time. And
gosh, is that in your first marathon?
Yeah, and that was just ridiculous because I had no idea and I felt really out of place.
Wow, so let's unpack that. So Mel, you said you were an aspiring netballer. You had the shoulder injury, shoulder surgery. I'm assuming you were probably quite decent as a junior at cross country and things. Is that fair?
Well, I didn't really do a lot. So my primary school used to have the annual cross country event, and I would just rock up to it, and I would always win it and go on to district and state level, and then that would be over and I wouldn't run for the rest of the year and then do it again the next year.
Come out and do it again the following year. So, all right, so that was your school days. And then you said you went over to university. Where did you grow up? You said you moved to Queensland, so I assume it was down south or...
Yeah, I'm from Melbourne.
Yeah. Whereabouts in Melbourne?
Baldwin was where I went to high school.
Yep.
And then when I was at uni, moved over the west side to be on call for all the uni rotations that we do. And then back over to Elwood to be on the beach when I graduated.
And did you always have an interest in veterinary science, I should say, becoming a vet?
Yeah, definitely. I think since I was really, really young, I've always wanted to work with animals. So yeah, it was always something I was going to do.
So you followed your passion there, and then you ran at uni. You must have had a few races before the Melbourne Marathon, not necessarily marathons, but you must have gotten a few local Sunshine Coast here in Queensland, Australia events. And what were they like? What were some of your early ones when you thought, you know what, I'm doing pretty well here?
So I did Noosa Half Marathon. I did and ran, I think it was 80 minutes and came third there, and thought, oh, wow, that's actually not bad.
Yeah.
So then I entered a couple more, and then I just kept getting better and better as I threw myself into more races, and I did the Brisbane Marathon. That was my first place.
Yep.
And then the Twilight Half down in Brisbane, and another first place and another minute off, and that was all my way of getting myself to the Melbourne Marathon. But prior to all of that, when I was in Melbourne, I used to go out for a run, whether it be 20k or 30k or something, and would get these cramps right in my ab muscle.
Yeah.
And it would hit, and then I'd be doubled over. It was crippling, and I would have to hobble home. But it wouldn't happen every time. It would just be completely random. And I saw a whole lot of different health professionals, and no one could tell me what was wrong. And it wasn't until I got to the coast and saw an osteopath up here, and he sort of took things back to basics and looked at me as a whole and worked out that I had a pars defect in my back, and it was all to do with my posture, and we worked on that, and I got a lot of confidence to just build up the Ks again, and then thought, yeah, okay, that's it. I'm gonna do some halves and then get myself into a full marathon. Well, actually, as soon as that osteopath that I saw worked out what my issue was, it was really easy. It was simply just that I was a bit compressed on one side of my back, and it was causing my ab muscle to have a big knot in it, really. And I got a bit of needling done right into the knot and hit the trigger point, and it basically just went away.
Yeah.
So it was a really long time of investigation, but the treatment was so simple.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that as a physiotherapy maximi, and you'd be the same with veterinary science, no doubt that, you know, I coach physiotherapists that work within our practice around this, and that's that, you know, diagnosis first, the rest comes second. Let's get really clear on the diagnosis. So it can be particularly frustrating, right, as an athlete when you just want an answer.
Definitely frustrating, because I knew that I wanted to run a marathon for a while, and it started to get to the point where I thought, well, it's just not going to happen. It's so devastating to feel that cramping and not be able to push on.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have wanted that to happen in a race. But yeah, getting on top of it and then getting some confidence was definitely what put me on the start line of Melbourne.
And so what was going through your head, Mel, when the selectors or the people that notified you of your Commonwealth Games qualifying time told you just run a qualifying time? Describe your first thought. What was your first thought?
Well, it was more shock and disbelief, I think, initially. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a run group, and that's what people kept asking me, you know, who do you run with and what do you do? And I just said, I just get up really early and run before work.
There's beauty in simplicity sometimes, right?
Yeah. So I was put in contact with Dick Telford.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure you know him.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, gee, he's not going to want to coach me, because, of course, I knew of him and thought that he only took on the best of the best. But he was interested and said, yep, there's lots and lots we can work on with you.
Yep.
So started introducing more mileage, then some change of pace, and that was the hardest thing for me, changing the pace, because I had just always run it whatever felt comfortable.
Yes. And you're still working with Dick, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. So you've been coached by Dick for what, is that now 2 and a bit years, Mel? Yeah, so 200 years. And what's the secret, do you think, of Dick's success in coaching athletes? And, we'll be interviewing Michael Shelley, one of, Dick's stable of runners, on the show in coming episodes. But what do you think, what is it about Dick that can just pull out what is it about his coaching style that, you really resonate with?
First of all, I have a huge amount of respect for him. He's a fantastic scientist and physiologist and has an enormously long and successful career at the AUS and now at the Canberra Uni, and he's got his own research projects, and he's someone that has that scientific mind, which I definitely respect, and he also really pays attention to his athletes. So he sends me a week by week program, but he really relies on my feedback 3 or 4 times a week so that we can tweak things, and it's just so tailored to each athlete. And he's just worked with so many different athletes, whether it be the elites, Rob Di Castella and Lisa Waitman and Michael Shelley, but he's also worked with a huge amount of other types of runners and even other sports. And I think he's just got such a wealth of knowledge that goes over so many decades that really he's seen it all, and I think he still appreciates that he still has things to learn as well.
Rare mix too, Mel, to have the mix of physiologists plus practically proven coaching methods.
Yeah. And he's actually finally published a book that is such a fantastic read, and it really gives you some insight about his career and all the fantastic athletes he's coached over the years and different stories. It's pretty amazing.
Looking forward to getting my hands on that one, that's for sure. The name of the book actually, Mel, is, do you know off the top of your head there?
Running Through the Looking Glass. Running
Through the Looking Glass. So listeners, will link that up in the show notes and jump over there. And if you're looking to get the most out of your running, it's a must read. So Mel, let's change gears a little. What's your morning routine look like?
Right. So I've got Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, my hard sessions, and Sunday's my long run. Monday, Wednesday, Friday are my easier running days.
So tell us about the speed work as an example. What do your hard sessions look like?
Okay, so this week, Tuesday I did a 3K with a 1 minute jog afterwards, a 2K with a 1 minute jog, and then a 1K with a 1 minute jog, and then 6 by 200 metres.
Yep.
So that was after a 5K warm up and then a warm down, so that the total run was 20K.
Yep.
So for me, I'm still improving on all of that, and especially this year, I've been seeing improvements every week now for about a month, which is really nice. I don't have a lot of difference in my pace when it comes to a 5K or a 3K, and even sometimes a 1K. Yeah. But that's something that it's taken a long time to teach my body to really change the gear. And that's why now on Thursdays I'm doing some even shorter efforts. So today I did 400s, 300s and 200s.
Are you doing these by yourself, Mel, or you've got a bit of a group around you?
Yeah, I'm still a solo runner.
Yep. We'll have to get you down to the Gold Coast, Mel.
Yes, I would love to. Yeah, it's hard to tee up people around here that aren't too scared to run with me.
Well, you've got a fairly impressive credentials, so yeah, a lot of people would be probably shy. So, and then what might your Saturday look like speed-wise, or you said that's one of your fast sessions?
Well, this weekend I've got an 8K best effort in the middle of a 20K.
Yep.
So that'll be nice to see how I go in that after doing that 10K a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And then Sunday I'll have my 30K long run.
Yep. And is that a fairly standard long run at the moment?
At the moment I'm sitting on 30, but it will increase. And when I get closer to full fitness, it'll be closer to 40Ks each week.
Yeah, so that'll step it up. So, Mel, has there been a period in your career, a dark period, where your commitment to the sport wavered?
It wasn't so much my commitment. It was I've had a big setback last year with an accident. So I ended up with a couple of fractures in my back.
Tell us about how that happened, if you can go through that, if you're happy to share.
Yeah. Well, I was a few days out of running the Rotterdam Marathon in Holland. And ready to run a big PB and everything. I was going for a 2:32 marathon. So a few days before, I was staying with a friend over there who was also running and slipped down her wooden staircase straight onto the coccyx and really, really hurt myself. I couldn't get up for at least a few minutes. But I think a lot of people would probably know what it's like. You know, you're a few days out of a really important race and you're not going to let anything stop you. So I didn't really acknowledge it. Told myself it was fine and got on with everything and ran the marathon. Didn't actually feel it, but really struggled toward the end. It was just the whole body hurt. And as soon as I stopped running when I hit the finish line, I actually couldn't move, which was really scary.
Like physically couldn't move, Mel, even if you wanted to. If the lion came around the corner, you couldn't have gotten up.
It was like this wave of pain rushed through, and it was horrible. And then it lasted. I was hobbling around for quite a while. I stayed overseas for a week to do a bit of travelling, and just thought, it's just got to be just a bruised coccyx. I'll be fine. But I was just really uncomfortable sitting, standing, doing everything. Yep. Eventually saw my osteo back at home.
So you travelled home with this injury?
A pretty horrible plane trip, sitting on my bum the whole way.
Oh, gosh. So you got home, saw your local therapist, osteopath?
Yep. He was pretty sure it was a dislocated coccyx, and we worked on that, and I kept trying to jog, but that was getting more and more painful. So eventually he said, this has got to be something worse. So we got an MRI done, and there were 2 fractures. One was a really quite extensive one through the sacrum, and the other one was in the L5 in my lower back. And then that was actually within the same week that Athletics Australia called me and said, you've been selected for the team to go to the World Champs.
Oh,
so
gosh.
that's horrible. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So what's going through your head at that point?
I think I was in denial for weeks and weeks. And then once I saw the scan when I went for the MRI, because being a vet, I can read the images. Once I actually saw how bad it was, I think my brain finally said, okay, you're broken. And it actually hurt 10 times more at that point.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Because I sort of just, finally gave into it. But telling Athletics Australia I couldn't be on the team was really, really tough, because it was something I wanted really badly. I worked really hard for it. Yep. But it was a forced decision. I didn't have a choice.
So at that point, how do you reset? What did you do to reset and look upwards? What have you done? What are the practical steps that you take after such success, bittersweet times, right? You get a nomination, you're off to have an entry in the World Marathon Championships representing Australia. Concurrently, you've just found out you've got 2 fractures, one in your sacrum, one in your L5 vertebrae. How do you reset, Mel? What did you do?
Well, I did. Yeah, I had a lot of people that were very supportive, including work, giving me whatever time off I needed, and but also letting me work a little bit because I didn't want to be sitting at home feeling sorry for myself. I set myself a bit of an exercise program to keep the sanity as well. So I was in the pool running every day, and the pool ladies doing their aqua aerobics became my friends. And then I had that 6-week countdown in my head. So I thought, that this is doable. I can keep fit in the pool and get myself to another marathon and look onwards to Rio. So that was sort of what kept my chin up.
Yep.
But then after the 6 weeks, I got another scan done and it didn't look great. So I was told to take another month off running. And that I think that was the hardest news to take, because I had that 6-week countdown in my head and I got there, and at that point I just thought, I don't think I can get in that pool ever again.
Yeah.
It was pretty tough. So I struggled doing the pool work after that, and was able to use the cross trainer a bit at the gym, but that really wasn't enjoyable either. And then I was lucky enough, a physio on the coast has one of those Ultra G anti-gravity treadmills.
So you befriended that?
Yeah, and he said, you know what, we'd love to help you out here. Come and use this machine for free. So that was really, really great, because actually they're normally quite expensive to hire. And yeah, used that for a while. I think my transition from that to then running outside may have been a bit much, and ended up tearing my glute muscle, which was very bizarre, I thought.
On your return, so you just get back to weight bearing running and you have had an acute muscle tear, is that right? Yep.
It hit me like I'd just been kicked in the bum, and it was the opposite side to the fracture. It was a grade 2 tear in the glute med with a really big hematoma right in the middle, and so that was a bit of a sign that I'd done it too fast.
So this is now all starting to eat into your Rio Olympic Games selection preparation process. Is that right? Yeah. Because
at that point I thought I was looking at January marathons.
Yep.
And then that tear was another 4 weeks off, I think, at least. And then it wasn't till the middle of November that I actually started running again. Tried to get myself ready to do something around March or April, which would be getting toward the end of the qualifying period.
Yes.
But just couldn't get it together in time. I didn't have that resilience in my muscles that I used to have. And I think being off for 5 months ended up sort of meaning I needed about the same time to just build up that resilience of pounding the pavement and just getting the muscle strength back. So, I just didn't have the time. So
at what point, Mel, did you realise that Rio was not going to happen? Rio Olympic Games 2016.
Around February, when I wasn't doing anywhere near enough work and I wasn't feeling fit, and I knew then that I couldn't push it. If I pushed it, I probably would have ended up in a bigger hole. So I thought, now's not the time to kill myself. I quickly just reset my focus.
Yep.
I know that if I take care of myself, I've got a lot more in me, and I can look forward to the next Games and 2020 Olympics. Yeah.
Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, Mel. You can run down here for a warm-up. For listeners, Mel's probably 200 and something Ks north of where I sit on the Gold Coast, so you could do that as a warm-up, right? Hey, the Mel run down the coast. So Mel, I imagine with that the Olympic Games, selection fall into the wayside for 2016. What was the conversation like you had with your coach Dick Telford around that?
Yeah, well, we spoke a lot, so we both sort of knew that it was going to be tough, he's not one to drive his runners into the ground. So he knew that, my health and everything came first. And he was very much guided by my sports doctors up here as well. We just went through a period of me running what felt right and backing off if it was not so good. And he really relied on me giving that feedback every day so that he didn't overdo it.
And I guess having Dick or Richard support in that regard must give you a lot of comfort.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I know that he's the best coach in the country, and there's no one better to be advising me on what to do and how to get better over the years. So, I know I'm in good hands.
Yeah. Sorry to all the other coaches in Australia. No, that's just lovely to hear from an athlete with their coach, because that's the way it should be, right? So, Mel, in terms of any major regrets in your life so far? You don't strike me as someone, Mel, that lives life with regrets.
No, I don't think it's worth really regretting things. I mean, there's been times where I thought, I wish I didn't run the Rotterdam Marathon, but that's, it still was a PB and it still was a huge learning experience. And I think up until that, I hadn't had a running injury, and I didn't really know that, these setbacks are all part of it. And the more I'm part of the athletics world and I know other athletes around in Australia and see that everyone goes through these big setbacks, and getting through them, coming out the other side and knowing that you're just going to get better than what you even were before, I think that makes you stronger, and that's how you can take the positives out of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was speaking tonight to a young athlete who just missed Olympic Games selection for his respective event, and my comments were almost that, to a T to him. His young guy, 20 years of age, was along the lines of, the disappointments, it's not a matter of when they come, it's a matter of if they come, and, the test of every athlete is how, they deal with those disappointments. So, well said, Mel. And so, Mel, tell us just a couple of quick rattle answers here. What's your favourite meal?
Oh, I have to say homemade pizza. I do that almost every Saturday night.
What type?
Well, it's usually got chicken and veg on it, and I make a gluten-free base.
Beautiful. What's your favourite training session?
Definitely Sunday long run.
Why?
I love just being able to go out and get into my zone and just feel that huge endorphin rush afterwards, knowing that you've just spent everything.
Run 30Ks, solo or in a group?
Always solo. I'm very selfish. I just love to run at my pace.
Worst training session? Or least liked? Because as an athlete, worst doesn't really work sometimes. Least liked?
Least liked. It used to be these really short efforts, but now that I'm learning how to do it, it's getting better. So now I would probably say my afternoon second runs, I'm still learning to love those because I'm not really much of an evening runner.
Favourite movie?
That's a tough one. Maybe when I was a kid, I used to always say The Lion King, but I probably should have a bit more of a grown-up answer now.
That was like the 1990s. All right, we'll move on that one. Favourite bit of sports gear? Favourite bit?
Well, 2 times a year, all my gear. I love it all. And Saucony Kinvaras are my favourite shoes.
Nice, and they were nominated. They were awarded the Shoe of the Year, I think a couple of times now, 2015, I think it might have been, by Runner's World magazine. So nice. And Mel, tell us about who's in your support team. What keeps you going? Who keeps you going?
I've got a huge support team. My mum and sister and my partner Tom have to be my biggest fans, and I really, really rely on them to be there at my marathons. Tom's been at every single one, which has been really helpful, and now I sort of expect that he has to be there. Definitely Dick, my coach. Yep. He's got me through got me all these PBs, and mentally he's got me through everything, and he's fantastic. And then there's the other people behind the scenes, like
There has to be
my
a Harry,
osteopath.
doesn't there, Mel? Sorry to cut in there. There has to be a Harry. Tom, Dick and Harry.
A Tom, Dick and Harry. Oh, geez,
Sorry,
there's no Harry. I'm going to have to find one.
A dad joke. I cut you off because I couldn't help myself. So Tom, Dick, and no, sorry, I cut you off for the sake of a dad joke.
No, that's fine. I have amazing sponsors 2 times a year, have been really supportive. And there's a brand of nutrition called Shots Nutrition run by Darryl Griffiths in Melbourne, and he's been a huge support, not only with the product but just with all the nutrition advice and, just calling up for a bit of a chat every now and then. So he's a fantastic guy. And then there's other people behind the scenes up here that I see every week almost. So my massage therapist, osteopath, and podiatrist, everyone helps and everyone's supportive, and the sunny coast is maybe similar to the Gold Coast where everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
So when you're out running, you're constantly waving and saying hi to people, and that's really nice too.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? And Mel, what's on your bucket list personally?
Well, when I talk about, big goals, I definitely I want to represent Australia again, and, whether that's world champs, Com Games, Olympics, or all of them, they're definitely on the list. Definitely want to be able to get myself down to 2 hours 30 or even crack 2 hours 30 with the marathon. So there's a few things there, and I think, I've got at least another 5 years in me to get all that, get all these improvements.
Yeah, fantastic. And in terms of one bit of advice, Mel, I'd like to finish with this with our interviews. What's one bit of training advice you'd give to listeners about how to achieve their physical best?
I think if you've got a really good mentor and coach that you can work with, that's going to be a massive help. So that's been the biggest change that I had from Melbourne Marathon and then going into Nagoya and then Com Games, just having that expert advice and support.
So for listeners, get a coach.
Yep.
And it's funny you say that, Mel. It's very timely because this Saturday will actually be getting an MRI on my thigh, and I suspect that I may have developed a little bit of a stress reaction in my femur, which is the same injury I had a year ago. And looking at it, it's funny, as the author of a book that's about injury-free, pain-free running, I live and breathe this every day, yet I think I've now realised I spend more time doing programs for injury rehabilitation for runners and informal running programs and advice for people than I ever do to sit down with my own. So it's actually a perfect little ending, Mel, to our interview. That's guys, get a coach, and Mel, I will be doing that myself.
Yes, yep, good. I'm glad to hear. It's so easy to tell people how to train and how to take it easy or whatever, but it's really hard to listen to yourself.
Yeah, well, Melanie Panayiotou, thank you very much for your time on the Physical Performance Show, and we will follow your journey closely, and certainly look forward to seeing you throw the green and gold on and pursue, your physical best in the years to come. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
And listeners, head over to iTunes, leave a review of the show, and don't forget to click subscribe. And you can look out for Melanie online. We'll pop Melanie's social handles in the show notes. Jump over to pogophysio.com.au, and also on the Facebook group you can see some content, leave some questions, comments, and don't forget to enjoy your physical pursuit of your best. Thanks, Mel.
Thanks a lot. See ya.